Conditionals are programming constructs that allow you to make decisions and execute different blocks of code based on certain conditions. They are crucial for controlling the flow of your program. In C#, there are several types of conditionals, but the most commonly used ones are the if statement and the if-else statement and the switch statement. Let's create a script file named Conditionals. Attach the script to a game object. Double-click the file to open it in Visual Studio. The if statement allows you to execute a block of code if a certain condition is true. Here is the basic syntax. If and a condition between two parentheses, then opening curly brackets and closing curly brackets to define the block, and then inside the block you will have the code to be executed if the condition is true. So this block here will only be executed or run if the condition over here is true. For example, let's say you want to check if a player's score is greater than 100. In this example, if the condition score bigger than 100 is true, the code inside the block will be executed, and the message will be logged to the Unity console. The if-else statement allows you to execute different blocks of code based on whether a condition is true or false. Here is the syntax. You have, as before, if and the condition between two parentheses, and then the opening and closing of curly brackets to define the block, and then the code inside to be executed if the condition here is true. And then you will have the else statement, and then you define another block by opening and closing the curly brackets, and then here inside the else block you will add the code to be executed if the condition here in the if statement is false. For example, let's say you want to check if a player's score is above or below a certain threshold. If the condition score bigger than 100 is true, the first message here will be logged. Otherwise, the second message will be logged. And here, because the score is equal to 80, then the first condition statement here, score is bigger than 100, would be false because the score is 80. So this block here won't be executed, and thus because it is false, then the block under the else statement is the one that will be executed. So the result would be keep going, your score is below 100, will be logged into the Unity editor. Additionally, the else if statement is an extension of the if else statement we have gone through just now. The else if statement allows you to evaluate multiple conditions in a sequence. It provides an additional branching options when you have more than two possible outcomes. Here is the syntax. As before, you have the if and then the condition, and then the block of the if that gets executed only when the condition is true. And in this case, we call it condition 1. And then you will have the else if statement that has condition 2, and then the code in a block that could be executed only if condition 1 is false and condition 2 is true. Then you could add, if needed, another else if statement with a condition. We call it condition 3. And then the code here will be executed if condition 1 and condition 2 are false and condition 3 is true. And you can keep adding more else if statement with blocks if needed. And at the end, we could add else And then the block here, as we mentioned before, can only be executed if none of the conditions above are true. Each else-if statement is evaluated only if the previous conditions are false. If one of the conditions is true, the corresponding block of the code is executed, and the remaining conditions are not evaluated or executed. The else-if statements could be as many as you want or need. Here is an example that demonstrates the use of else-if statements. In this example, the code checks the value of the score variable and prints different messages based on the score range. The conditions are evaluated in sequence, and the first condition, that is true, trigger the corresponding code block. If none of the conditions is true, the code inside the final else block here will be executed, because everything before it is failed or it's false. Using else-if statements allow you to handle multiple scenarios with different conditions and outcomes. You can chain together as many else-if statements as needed to handle all possible cases in your Unity project.